Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your East Oakland advocate. Today, I want to talk about some of the things in the past about housing here in Oakland and why Oakland has such a shortage of low-cost housing, and it goes back uh, to Jerry Brown. And when Jerry Brown took office, one of the things that he wanted to do was do away with housing and urban development because he didn't see benefits in that because it didn't serve his purpose. That's the main thing. Housing became a big topic, and Jerry Brown brought that up in Oakland uh, and said that he was committed to 10,000 new housing units in the city of Oakland. And he was going to see a lot of redevelopment in one of his first projects, which really got stalled and then didn't get back underway until Gene Kwan's administration, and then rolled into Libby Schaaf's administration, and then she took credit for Jerry Brown's uh, downtown, the old wholesale produce area of Jack London Square, and just west of the Oakland Chinatown. And so a lot of housing units. We had the Acorn in West Oakland, which was a huge housing project, and also Section 8. And here's something that a lot of Oaklanders don't know is that at one point during the 60s, Oakland had over 5,000 low-cost housing units available in their Section 8 affordable housing criteria and the inventory, I should say. And then over time, some of those got removed for one reason or another, but things really took off in the destruction mode because criminals took over a lot of the housing projects, and the Oakland Housing Authority was outgunned, literally outgunned by the hostiles and the criminals that took over the Acorn projects and several others. And that's why Oakland started seeing a decline in Section 8 housing during Jerry Brown's reign, because he's just started saying, well, we can't fix it, let's just tear them down. And that's what he did. The Acorn projects, everything leveled, 6 blocks of housing leveled. And it was a dangerous situation, yes. But it was because the Oakland Housing Authority police officers were outgunned. We're talking about a period in time when criminals had automatic weapons, and they used fear and intimidation in the Acorn projects. And so literally how they had to clear the projects was to completely wipe them out and destroy them. And the same with uh, some of the other Oakland projects. There were some smaller Section 8 housing that went up for sale by Jerry Brown during the early 2000s, and all of them were snapped up real quickly by, you guessed it, slumlords, and because they were literally giving them away. They needed a lot of work, and I was a victim of one of those slumlords named, uh, well, Elizabeth was one of the big slumlords here. She has over 600 slum units here in Oakland, and her family is second generation slumlord. She lives way down in down south of Los Gatos, and so and she illegally carried guns and threatened the tenants as a regular when she came to collect rent, and that was an untenable situation for me, because number one, she didn't really give a crap about the residents, and these places turned into hellholes. Underneath my unit, the sewer line had broken, and it was a cesspool, literally a cesspool. When the One person came out to assess the problem. He said, "Oh hell no, that's a swimming pool underneath there," and I mean the odors coming out was just in, unbelievable. And so rather than fix the problem like she should have, she got rid of me and another tenant who were complaining, and then we were also complaining to the city. So she illegally evicted us in 10 days, and we don't know how this was possible. Even when I checked at the court records, oh, her, and she said there's definitely something wrong with the paperwork, because if you haven't uh, even you were just served this, and she saw the notice, she said, "This is your final notice." I said, "I haven't had a first notice." And she said, "That can't be." And she looked everything up and said, "Well, there's something definitely wrong here." So we know that a lot of crookedness came out of those sales of the Section 8 housing that city of Oakland had. Oh, and here's a tidbit that most of you, in fact, probably just about all of you don't know. City of Oakland, City of Oakland only has 1,606 units of Section 8 housing. 1,606 units of Section 8 housing, affordable housing. And let's see, here's one of the Lockwood Gardens, which is here in East Oakland, has 762 units. And then there's Peralta Village. It's uncertain as to how many units are there, but it is believed 537. And then there are 5 other properties throughout Oakland, but they are managed. They are managed by, or I should say, mismanaged by third-party agencies. And these are the ones that we constantly hear about at hog meetings. And so uh, there's a lot of things that need to be done. Number one, we need to restore housing here, the low-cost housing in Oakland, and increase that supply. Rather than doing away with HUD like what Jerry Brown did, we need to restore that, and then work with the HCD, Housing Community Development, Housing and Community Development, HCD. And with that, we can go back and start creating the housing that we need. The 980 corridor plan, that's community land trust property that would be the top portion of the deck that would be built over the Highway 980. We don't lose Highway 980, that stays intact, but we put a deck on top of that, which brings back all the old neighborhoods that were lost in the late 60s and early 70s. And those are become low-cost Section 8 housing. And we're looking at up to 2,500 units, low-cost units. And then the best thing that we can do is not use the old antiquated style of housing construction. We use new housing construction that I've been talking about. Hempcrete. Hempcrete is one of the newest products, and it's literally fireproof. You can put a flame to it for an hour, and it will not burn. It is thermically better than anything that we have because the walls are 10 inches thick, and they're made with hemp, and so it's very strong. Another thing, that these are homes that are designed for 100 years, 100-year lifespans. They have steel hurricane roofs on top, and on top of the roofs are your bifacial solar panels. So these are all self-sufficient units, and these help the people that are struggling with day-to-day. And we're talking about a lot of the seniors and people who are on Social Security or disability, because their incomes are only about $800 these days, $600 to $800, and that's pretty typical. And that may be shocking to you. How can anybody survive on that? That's the point. That's why we have such a serious homeless problem, because we have a big senior population that are losing their homes because for one reason or another, they can't stay in their home because, number one, they're not making enough money because the greed of the landlords and the cost of living these days. And so that creates a very big problem. And that's why we need to restore the Section 8 housing units so desperately. And the best part of the units, they're self-sufficient. There's no electric bills. There's only a small water bill and sewer bill, but there's nothing, no real big bills that for the tenant should these be leasable. And then with it, these being leasable and 100 years, and then being built on community land trust property, there's no land cost, but there's just the cost of maintenance and the cost of the construction of those units. And so that's very, very doable, because right now, with all the tax dollars that you've spent, that you've helped put out all across America, you've actually bought homes for at least 2 homes for every homeless person in America. Can you realize that? You need to think about that for a moment. The amount of money that has been spent over the last 8 years on homelessness would give 2 homes, 2 complete homes to every homeless person in America today. That's how much money you've put out in your tax dollars. And you say, we don't want the homeless to have homes. Well, you've already paid for them, just that you got nothing to show for it. And if every homeless person had that home for themselves, we wouldn't have the crime that we have. We wouldn't see the homeless issues that we have. We wouldn't see the poverty all over the streets. The drug addiction issue would mostly disappear, because they would be once again behind closed doors. And like, well, we don't want drug addicts in getting free homes. Well, let me tell you, you've got more drug addicts that are paying for homes, buying them legally and illegally, than you have illegals. So think about that for a moment. That's why we have to flip the script, we'll say, and we'll call it that, flipping the script. Let's put in place all of the homes necessary, the housing that's necessary to deal with the homelessness, the poverty, and the crime, because housing is a human right. If you think about it, it's not a privilege. It is a right, because everything that is living needs to have shelter. Birds, insects, even worms need to have shelter. And so humans are no exception. So those of you that say human is not a human right, you're absolutely wrong. It is a human right. It needs to be dealt with, and because we've already seen your side and how it doesn't work. Let's try something different. 180 degrees direction change, put up housing, get people into housing, and keep them there in housing. And there's a lot of different models that I'm going to be showing over the time. I've already shown 3 models. I've got 3 more models here for the city of Oakland to show you. And I'm going to be saving those for a little bit down the road. I don't want to give away all of my great possibilities here for the city of Oakland to deal with. Number one, the housing affordability issue, the homeless issue, and the crime issue. That's topic number one. How we deal with that is through affordable housing. And think about this. Not that long ago, I was a maintenance manager for an apartment complex in Union City. And the lowest rent there was $35. That's what the tenant paid, $35. And some of those tenants were struggling because they were on disability. This one lady that I do remember, she had been in her apartment for 20 years and only paying $35 a month. Now that's incredible. She had to pay for her electricity and her water, or the water was free because it was the apartment, but the electricity she had to pay for it. And there were months that even she struggled with that $35, because you think about a person who brings in between $600 and $800, that's not much money. And then on top of that, she had two mouths to feed. She had her grandchildren that she was taking care of because the parents were behind bars. And so that's the situation in a lot of households that uh, bear the brunt of inflation these days and are more devastated by $1 change in anything. So that's what I'm up to. I'm here to fix the problems that Oakland created, and especially with past administrations, and then the lack of imagination and vision of the mayors that came after Jerry Brown. Now, we can't blame Ron Dellums because he didn't want the job to begin with. So I don't place any blame with Ron Dellums. I have massive respect for what he's done for the Bay Area as a congressman. But and that's the other thing. Experience matters. We saw things happen with Jerry Brown because he had experience. We saw things not happen with Ron Dellums more pretty much, but we can't blame him. But there's no excuse for the mayors that came in after that, meaning Gene Kwan, Libby Schaaf, and now Sheng Tao, who have no experience at uh, any real government, running a government agency, a government um, dominion. And I have. I've run a major high federal government agency with a staff of 800 to 1,000 personnel, and then my own personal staff of 20. And so that's not far off from what the city of Oakland is doing right now. Yes, there'd be more employees, but I don't directly go and see each and every one of those workers. Whereas in my company, I knew each and every one of my workers and what their families were like and where they were situated and financially where they were. So big difference in experience. So experience does matter in the case of running a city. And we see that because the last three mayors showed us how dumb they were. They didn't know how to do anything. They were better firefighters than they were anything else because all they were doing during their administration was chasing fires. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.